Good morning. Well, we're here to present the strategies and proposals from the education panel. I'm Sham, by the way. The panel has been getting together for the past 2, maybe more years, and they're basically made up of educators, sponsors, parents, and professionals. I mean, we have educators from all levels in the education panel. We have Brian at the secondary level, we have Warren lecturing in NIE, we have Azza at the poly, and I'm teaching at the JC level. Right? So let's begin. As what Nizam says, our tagline, our strategy rather would be creating a community of inspired learners. And we have 3 strategies that we're going to show you in just a moment. Okay, so I'll go to the next slide. Okay, well, it's no secret, we are still lagging behind in major examinations. If you compare what the graph says, as what Nizam earlier on has already shown you, the Malays are basically topping the other ethnic groups in terms of passes at the O levels. Same goes, especially in mathematics. We lag behind at the primary level. Okay? Again, we're behind the other communities when it comes to mathematics. And again, it hasn't been pushed up. By the time we get to O levels, when you translate that to O-level passes, we are still way behind that. Okay? And this is important because mathematics is a very important subject. Okay? A good grounding in mathematics enables the student to get very good passes in his later stages of his education. Okay? And it's also very much a requirement when you want to go for further studies. So the issue here is that the lag begins at the primary level. And however much we try, it still hasn't translated to much success even at the O levels. So that becomes a big issue. And this is despite, for the past, over 10, 20 years, all the MMOs have been trying as much as they can with all sorts of programs in trying to up the rates, the passing rates, when it comes to education at the lower level. See, a lot of money, a lot of funds have gone into extra classes, extra tuition, subject mastery classes, study skills. But for whatever that we've done, it still hasn't really been translated much into success. The figures don't really show that we've gone up so much. So that's one issue that we have at this juncture. Okay? The fact that our students don't perform at the lower levels, and it hasn't really improved much by the time they get to the O levels. And this affects their chances of furthering their studies. At the next level, okay, if you look at it from another perspective, for those who have made it, okay, at the higher levels, we have only this much. Okay. We have increased, well, I would say quite good, spectacularly in the polytechnic level, because in 2005 there was only 5.2%, we've gone up to 15.6%. But if you go and look at the figures for the university graduates, those who got into university, and we're talking about local universities at this point of time, it's only 3.4% in 2005, and it's only gone up by 5.1%. And you compare that to the national levels, okay, we're still slightly behind at the polytechnic level, but at least we've gone up a lot. But if you look at university candidates, university graduates, they've gone up to 22.8%. That means out of every 100 students at the national level, 100 youth, put it that way, 23 students who have made it to university, at the national level, but if you compare that to the Malay community, only 5 people would have gone to university out of every 100 Malays, and that's a very dismal figure. And the thing is, we need a lot of Malays from the people in the community to show that they can make it. Okay, because these are our icons. These are our role models for the rest of the students in the community. Because, well, it's been talked about before. Okay, somebody was saying, if you throw a rock at a group of Malay students, more or less you'll fall on somebody who hasn't got the right qualifications, who comes from a dysfunctional family. We need to change that. Okay? We need to up the critical mass. So if we are able to get more students to go through university, I believe that is one good way to change the perception of the rest of the students. Okay? They see a role model next to them, they interact with a role model, and they will believe that they can do it too. And that's what I mean. Okay. Now, if you look at this, the rates here, these are Malay Muslims going for further studies by alternative pathways. And you can see, compared to the national level, that's a good sign. Okay. We have more and more of our of the Malays going up, getting further education. They may not have made it through the normal pathways, okay, but at least they strove hard. Okay, they had aspirations and they got to where they are, and there's more of them going up that way. If you can basically make some kind of inference, perhaps these people were from this group. Okay, they probably would have graduated at polytechnic level. They've gone to work for a bit, saved money, and then they went on to further studies and got further qualifications. So that is something good for the community. Okay. So at least what we can say is, although there may not be enough university graduates around, but there are enough people with higher qualifications, and that is the beginning. Okay, where our youth can look at them and say they've made it, so can we. Right. So, hang on. At this juncture, we're looking at two origins, two junctures where we need to tackle the problem. The one would be at the very beginning of the educational ladder, where they need the extra help, where they need whatever help we can give, okay, to up their grades. So, the moment they are able to do better at the primary level, okay, you can assume that they'll be doing better at the O levels too, and from O levels then they can move up for their further education. The other way of looking at it would be the other juncture would be right at the other end. We have students who've gone through the polytechnics, okay, who wants to further their studies, okay, but some of them face obstacles. We cannot get the rates at this point of time. We've tried. Okay. We talked to various sources asking how many of our polytechnic graduates would have wanted to go to university. But we just cannot get the rates, the numbers. But we've got a lot of anecdotal evidences, stories that we hear about students having graduated from polytechnic, wanting to go on, but not having the funds. And we also have stories of graduates or students who wants to go and finding no place to get funds. And the funds were very limited. So we get complaints like, I've made calls to this party, to that party. Number one, they said, where do you want to go? And then if they mention, well, I wouldn't say second rate, but maybe not the top-notch universities, instant rejection. Okay. And then, or they were told to go somewhere else. So that becomes an issue. First, the complaint was, we never get to see faces. We make cold calls, fine, okay, but that's the response that we get. And they feel very disheartened. Okay? They feel that, we need to at least see face to face somebody who can tell us that at least they've been trying for us, or at least they can tell us exactly where we can go. If they can't give us money, that's fine. At least tell us where we can get the sources. But there isn't such avenues yet. That's what they're saying. Okay. So now we look at the other junction, the pupils at the beginning of the education ladder. What are the causes for the failure? Why is it that they weren't able to get very good grades? And one reason will be this. They start off with very weak foundation. We all know that a lot of students come from families with low SES, socioeconomic status. If you compare that to students, primary school students maybe from the other communities, they start off, their families can afford to, or their families had initiated to send them for tuition classes, send them for enrichment classes. But unfortunately not so much for students from the Malay community. And because of that, they suffer from that. They had very weak foundations in terms of the core subjects like mathematics. Okay. And like I said, despite all the MMOs providing subject mastery classes, extra tuition, somehow it just has not been translated into better figures for the community. So you begin to ask yourself, what is missing? What is something that is lacking in that equation? What can we do better to get them to be better students? So this, by the way, these are all observations from educators, the ones who taught the students. Okay. In our discussions in the panel, we called in educators, okay. We called in experts to get their views, and most of the time, this is what resonates. And of course, in terms of motivations, positive dispositions, habits of mind, you don't get many students very eager and very much wanting to learn. Okay. They don't see the future in it, so to speak. Okay. Because of their socioeconomic background perhaps, or because they don't have positive role models, they don't see themselves as being in a position to excel. And so what happens? The coping mechanism comes in. And the coping mechanism basically tells them, I do what I can. If my brother gets by with N levels, that's what it is for me. There was a response that I got from one of my interviewees. So I was asking him to relate any experiences which might have shown this. And he was saying, I went to Kenduri, a relative's Kenduri, and he was basically having a friendly conversation with his 6-year-old girl. And he was asking her, so little girl, when you get to secondary school, where would you like to go? What school would you like to go? And her response, any school with good NTech. That's what he aimed for. That's what she aims for. Normal technical. And you begin to ask yourself, why? Most probably her brother, her sister, her family, her relatives around here, that's the best they got. And that's the kind of role modeling that she gets. And that's what she internalizes. And that becomes an issue. And that's why I say later on, positive role modeling is very, very important. Scholastic icons are very important for the community. Okay. If you get surrounded by achievers, that becomes internalized because then you see them yourselves as getting to that direction, as having that possibility. But if you're surrounded by people who don't get so much up there in the educational ladder, it gets into you. And you begin to believe that that's the best you can do for yourself. And that's where the motivation comes down. That's where the expectations come down. And it doesn't help that, well, like I said, if the parents don't do well for themselves, and that's the kind of modeling they have for their kids, not so good. Okay? I mean, I have relations, sad to say. For example, they had kids who are doing well enough. Okay, the thing is, the father, he's basically, he works as a bellhop in a hotel. The mother doesn't work. But the mother, the excuse for the mother is, well, they're growing up. They're my 2 boys. I need to take care of them. But by the time they got to Sec 3, they're very independent. So I was telling the mother, well, they're independent. why don't you work? And her response, I don't think I want to. Why? I asked. Well, I'm getting all of these freebies, all of this financial aid. If I work, I'll lose all of them, so I'd rather not work. That's the kind of mindset that is pervasive among people of that SES. So that becomes an issue that you need to change. And that change comes with the role modeling. If you have a critical mass of successful stories, okay, and that kind of pulls the ones at the bottom. And that's what we need to do. Then you can see, these are results of the perception survey. When you talk about negative mindsets, okay, parents say, I want my sons, my daughters to do well in school. But when asked, what do you do to help them? Nothing. I want them to study, but I don't know how to help them. And when you talk to the students themselves, the perception survey says something else. They ask the students, hey, do you think you want to study all the way to university? The answer is no. I don't think I can make it. You ask the parents again, would you like them to go to university? They say yes, but I don't think I have the money. So you have this very negative kind of perception outlook, okay, for their own sons and daughters, and that becomes an issue. Again, another issue would be the fact that we don't have enough resources, or rather, Malay families don't have enough resources to expose their children to quality learning infrastructure. You look at what's available in the market, okay, and we talk in terms of enrichment programs. We have parents sending their sons and daughters, from the other communities, specialized maths programs. And we're not talking about tuition, we're talking about enrichment, MDM, Kumon, Sakamoto. All of these are available in the market. But if we look at the number of Malay children that goes in there, not so many. And of course the reason will be they can't afford it. Okay. Something I want to point out to this. There's been a lot of talk, actually it's been going on quite some time, that there are certain ways to teach. Okay. And that teaching can actually be aligned to the background of the students. The teaching that happens in school, well, yeah, it's generic, it's mainstream. But the argument has been that it doesn't cater to, or it doesn't cater especially, it hasn't benefited as much people of different backgrounds. Different approaches. If you know a little bit about Jamie Escalante and his methods where he teaches Hispanic students, where the emphasis is not just on steps to solving a problem, it's also on the motivation, the alignment of the content of that approach with their background. All of that is possible if you have the right approach. And here we're talking about culturally responsive pedagogies. The problem is we don't have much research in this, because it's not a priority with the government. Because the government caters to everybody. So we want to take up this as our priority. If we can find an approach which caters more to our students, where they can align their feelings, where they can align their emotions, their background to the content of what is being taught. Okay. It can be easy, we can be as easy as talking about how do you organize a kanduri. For the Malay, they will know what. Okay. What is needed, what proportion, what percentage. As simple as that, and it can be as more elaborate than that. But the point is, we need to look more into such approaches, culturally responsive pedagogies. And the thing is, we can't depend on MOE for this because it's just not their job. They can't put themselves in a position where they prepare something for somebody of a specific ethnic background. But having said that, they can prepare something for a group that belongs to a specific socioeconomic status. That perhaps we can talk to them. But if you want something that is aligned with people from the same ethnic group, then I think we have to do it ourselves. And we need expertise, of course, for that. And we we talk about expertise, we mean this. We need to gather people. People will be able to contribute to the community. Look at our educators. We have more than enough educators from the community. We will need their help. We need to pool our resources together. We have people from outside the community. Our flamboyant NIE lecturer here is coming to help. Okay? And we can get more of that. Okay? So this is something good. Okay? So after this convention, we will be going around. We'll be asking educators, we'll be asking people in the community with specific specialties to come forward and share. Okay? And from there, we'll see what package we can create, and then we'll have probably a pilot program for a small group perhaps. See what we can tweak to make it better before we roll it out later on. So here's the recommendation that we have. We have 3 main recommendations. The first is we want to have this mantra for all the Malays in the country, that it is possible for you to have a graduate in your family. And not just a graduate, graduates in the family. To make it possible, we extend that label, graduates, not just university graduates, IT graduates acceptable, poly graduates better still. Okay? We were talking to Cinder the other day. Okay? They have a similar tagline, and from there we looked at it and we think that it's something that we can also adopt. So we will be thinking how we can get this mantra going among every family. It could be a campaign, it could be something that we publicize, but at the end of the day, we want every family to think that yes, it is possible, and that's what I want to strive for my kids, for them to be graduates. If they can't make it to university, so be it, they'll be graduates, as IT graduates, as poly graduates. But the point is, they don't stop there. They end up in ITE, they finish ITE, they go forward, they strive through the alternative pathways, whatever pathways that's possible, but they better themselves. Okay? Because why? It's possible because every other family wants a graduate. I want one for my own family too. Okay? Of course, we need to help those aspiring students, the ones who tell us all the sad stories about how they've been going to anywhere and everywhere to get funding, okay, but they just not meeting the right people, not getting the right help. So we want to establish advisory channels. We want to make these aspiring students know that we care, that they have a face that they can turn to. And even if that face can't help them much, but the face is there, and the face can show them where they can go. All right. The second one. So just now, okay, the advisory channel, the graduates in their family, that is basically to cater to the needs of the ones who's already inspired. Okay. The students who want to go for further studies. Okay. Basically, it's a way to increase our pool of graduates, to create scholastic icons in the community. What about the ones below? The ones having problem getting good passes in mathematics, the ones who can't get, who can't do well at PSLE and O levels. We have to see what we can do for them, and that's where the effective outcomes come in. I mean, you have to understand, tuition classes, subject mastery classes, they haven't been translated into something more positive for the community. So something must be missing in that formula. And we look at it in terms of this, effective processes. Effective processes must be aligned to the development of cognitive skills. You teach them, you have tuition classes in maths. You give them all the formulas. But they might not be motivated to do that. What can you put in the equation, okay, to get them excited to want to do better? You can have testimonials, okay, from those who did better to come in, talk to the students, basically saying, I was like you, but now I'm better. Or you can have students coming in to guide the weaker ones, because it gives them affirmation, it gives them confidence that they can do well too. These are the kind of effective approaches that we can look at. And so we basically merge them into the tuition classes that you have. So the idea is, at the end of the day, they not only become, they know more about their subjects, but they want to be better themselves, okay? To get them to have that motivation. There's 5 categories of experiences that I want to show you based on research, and how this can actually get the students excited to be better, to want to be better for themselves. Okay, but before that, we look at the other ways too. So we might want to think later on, as I show you the 5 experiences, we might want to think how they can be infused into the current program. So we're not talking about abandoning current programs. We see value in the current programs. But what we want to do is to get the current programs to be much better, to have greater impact on the students than what they have at the moment. Okay. So we want to use these experiences to reshape the current programs. And well, we want to see the lack of time it takes to make the students get better grades. Okay, these are the 5 experiences that I'm talking about. Okay, based on research, these are 5 experiences which inspire learners. Let me break them up. Training is basically conducted by these groups of students. Okay, this group of these groups here. Okay, I'll just go to the middle one. Dialogue. Based on research, the students felt. Okay, I've been talking to lots and lots of youth. I want to get their secrets. Okay, those who were motivated. What was it that kept them going? Those who were not able to make it to the finish line, what were the obstacles that they faced? What was the missing element in the experiences that they went through? They pointed to dialogue. They said, we felt very, very activized and energized when we know that there are people who face the same situation as us, face the same kind of obstacles. Okay? When we have dialogues, and I'm not talking about conversations here, I'm talking about dialogues where they share emotions, not just bouncing of ideas, but bouncing of information. Okay? They form support groups. Okay? That helps them. So the moment they were able to have support groups, they were able to energize each other into wanting to do better for themselves. Experiential learning and reflexivity. A group of students told me, they said, we went on this activity conducted by one of the MMOs. What was it? During the fasting month. They said, we knocked on doors to give, was it rice or air bandung? Okay. But the thing is, every door that we knocked, and these are 1-room flats, every door that we knocked, the face that appeared when they opened the door are Malay faces. That got us thinking, that made us feel sad, but at the same time, that made us think for ourselves. So we don't want to be in that position, and we don't want our community to be in that position all in future. And that starts with ourselves. So that made them, it's conscientization in a word. It's getting that motivation to want to do better for yourself and your community. Ownership and empowerment. Okay. Activities which they created, designed, organized, things like concerts, things like fundraising activities. But these are successful activities where people pat them at the back and say, well done. That made them feel good. That also made them feel that they can do better for the community. Okay? And that also gave them the confidence to do better for themselves, because they have experienced success. They want more success, of course. Success is addictive, isn't it? Leading and mentoring, somebody called it the buddy system, which is true. Okay? If you're partnered with somebody who's gone through the experiences which you are going through now, okay, you look at them as your role model, okay. But these people will also be the first to criticize you in whatever you do. Okay. But that gives you more challenge. Okay. That gives you basically more motivation to do well for yourself. And of course, that last one is intercultural experiences. Right now, on his own or on her own, a Malay student is usually very defensive about his or her beliefs, defensive about his or her practices. But you get them to be engaged with somebody from another ethnic group. You get them to be friends, so-called. They will feel that you and I were no different. Okay? It gets them to accept the other person as an equal. It gets them to be less defensive. It gets them to be motivated to be the same as the other person, or even better, perhaps. Okay. These are the kind of activities that leads to that. Okay. Because all of this, you get energized, you get activized, but in the end, you begin to think it all begins with me. Okay. So if you are able to get activities, okay, which comprise all of these elements, and I assure you, it's been proven, okay, you get students which are really very, very motivated. That's where this comes in. We need to get our intellectual resources together. We need to have a place where you can deposit all of this information. Right now, I think we're kind of lacking inside the center. Yes, we have research centers by the other MMOs, but even RIMA at present, okay, we have, ANP has a research center, but basically we're dealing with anything and everything to do with the community. But if you want our students to do better, we need to put more emphasis in creating content, in creating approaches, in creating programs that will make them into better learners. Okay, and the teachers into better teachers for that matter. So we need an education research center. Okay. We've been discussing a lot in the community, in the committee, in the education panel. One of the issues that we have is we have so many programs going on. How do we know if they're successful? Do we have data to support it? Very lacking in many of the research centers when I ask. Because the thing is, once it goes off, but nobody keeps track, and that's why we need a research center. We need to see what programs are very successful, and if they're successful, what are the components that make it successful so that it can be duplicated, and what components aren't so successful so that we can take it out and replace it with something better. But we don't have that as yet. So we need a specialized research center to do all of it, to do the tracking, to do the pilot programs. So basically that's the 3 recommendations by the education panel. Okay. Bear in mind, we are not discarding any emphasis, or we are not de-emphasizing the other issues affecting the community that is also related to education. Nizam has said it as much. Okay. It's a very multifaceted issue with lots of problems that's very much interrelated with other issues. And that's why if you step out and you go into the other room, you'll probably be talking about the same thing, the social panel, the religion panel, but from different perspectives. For us, we are talking about how to teach them better, how to make them better learners. Okay. And for that, we have these 3 main recommendations. All right? So that's it. Thank you very much. Now it's Q&A if anybody has questions or issues. Do we have any? Sorry, yeah.
One of your recommendations is to have this resource center to have the face for all your colleagues on further education.
Well, it's a recommendation. It doesn't mean that we will do it. We'll, like I said, like what Nizam says, this is a convention of Muslim professionals, not an AMP thing. This is our recommendation. If there's a party that wants to take it up that has all the resources, That is very good.
Yeah,
If not, I
and
can
what
yes.
is- So why do you think we need this? And Mendaki is already there. So why
What services would Mendaki have at this point of time?
they have the interest-free loan, they have the CTFS.
Mhm.
Yeah, itu je I okay, for anybody who wants to get loan, I think the first point should be Mendaki.
True.
So, I mean the mechanism is already there. So why do you need to
Okay,
have
I'll ask Raha to talk because she's recent experiences. You might want to share. Raha, by the way, has been accepted to do her masters in King's College in the UK. So she's been looking around for money. Well, Raha, you can talk if you want.
About funding?
Yeah. Who have you approached to get money and all that?
Quite a few groups, but I never quite heard if you know Mendaki. I've not heard from them yet. It's just a matter of getting in terms of there's no, and okay, I've had quite a few similar experiences. There's no one structure really that can help us in terms of how we do it, whether there are any organizations that will be more willing to help if they have a clear interest in what we are going to be doing in our further study as well. So there's not really that particular structure in place. And I think that will help very greatly because now those of us who are looking for funding are being like this okay, who has funding, who can help us, what's the process, what's the kind of people that are looking for that they're willing to help. And that's not there. And and a lot of us are working, we have no time to do all these things. It stresses us out. It does. And what we want to do eventually when we come back is we want to help the community, and we feel that that's the case. There should be a bit of a two-way process as well. And this is where I think it's important.
She's not the only story that I've heard. I've heard lots of other stories. Yes, Idris.
I can agree with Shahad. I was in the predicament not too long ago. And I think it's more of the cold first response that you get when you're in a need of desire for help. So I think it's more that we should consider the alternative pathway in terms of informing and getting ourselves in check, where to get help and where to get assistance. I think that's the most primary response that we should be looking at.
So in the end, where did you line up? He's from. Sorry, tell us about your education.
I actually graduated with Master's First Class Masters in Applied Linguistics, University of Liverpool. So I managed to get a scholarship from University of Liverpool. Although I was offered a scholarship with Singapore Police Force. I was doing my forensics there. I eventually went to Ministry of Education.
From CSI to education.
From CSI to linguistics. Yes.
So how many people did you ask? I mean, to get funding? Do you
Well,
remember?
I got bumped around from. I'm a bit of a unique case. Indian Muslim, so I got bumped from Mendaki to Sinda, and Sinda bumped me back to Mendaki, and it's more like that, I would say. It's quite unfortunate.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate. It doesn't seem to be, and the response is not good.
Yes.
And they're just not very okay with what commitment to what you're doing.
I think for there are a growing number of us that are actually pursuing higher education in tertiary level of education, and it's sad that we have attained a matter of respect in that sense of getting to higher education, but there's no hand that helps along, or
I think Nadia wants to share.
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to studying I think the moment it's very, very difficult. With an offer is a tertiary education that offers better opportunities than what the universities are offering. And it seems that every door is knocked on, people are telling you with various reasons. A lot of the time we fall into the sandwich classes where we cannot really fund ourselves, but do not fall under the social economic classes that automatically qualify for the support that's available. And I think a lot of the MMOs can take a leaf out of the book of LPTM, for example. They've gone on to do an amazing thing by offering a prestigious scholarship to overseas student studies in overseas universities. They've listed and specified a list of good universities overseas. Even though the amount might not be enough for you to cover the entirety of the education, it is a token of support from the community, and that's important in terms of us being motivated to come back to self-community, knowing that someone backs us up will be there. So,
I find it disturbing for quite a few of the women's organizations in access when you're asking about funding, you're asking about help, especially Islamic class, right? They ask for their family's financial background. And this explicitly stated in scholarship that this is going to be a consideration. Even government scholarships will not consider their family background. I mean, even if your family is doing well, maybe, possibly, they may have their own responsibilities. They may not be able to help you, and I can fully understand that from most families, but that seems to be a consideration, and that's not fair to the person, him or herself, who is intending to do their studies, because, like for me, I can't tell my sister to pay for me, it's not right. But it is explicitly stated in the law that this is going to be a consideration of when you financial background, but I'm taking ownership of my own studies here. I don't want to rely on that, and you're taking obstacles in my path for that, and I don't think that's right.
Eventually, we do want to promote independence among our community as well.
Yeah, the family wants that my family financial background is a hindrance to me getting any kind of help. It's not. I don't think it's right.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to mention just
Sorry,
now.
can you introduce yourself?
Pardon?
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Shafi.
Are you representing?
No, I'm an
Okay.
I see just now it's like 5%, roughly, of our cohort going to universities.
Yeah.
Now, I see a blaring situation there. You could have translated 5% of cohort university by realizing the fact that we have a 30% polytechnic graduates who are wanting, raring to go to universities. And the question is money. So from 5% you can go up to 30% immediately within less than 10 decades if we can provide that money.
Exactly.
So
that's the point that we want.
We need a political will. We don't talk about 5%, but there is a reason behind that funding. I'm a lecturer at the International College.
Right.
I was a teacher before a long time,
Right.
and I've assessed the education for 30 years. There's nothing, every polytechnic graduate, Malay graduate wants to go to university. That's a fact.
Yeah. And that's where you get from Azhar. You want to share? Azhar is lecturing at the poly, and he's been talking to his students.
And I want
Where
to
do
make
they
one more
want to
suggestion, if you don't mind,
Sure.
my last suggestion. You made a lot of ideas for business. Now, I think
For
a
business?
business approach, you could have translated all these ideas into business proposition.
business proposition?
Yes, and I think a business
I'm an educator, so
Yes,
yes.
yes. So, a business, what I mean is that you have to create this group of edupreneurs who can specialize in certain areas with the cultural support from the, whatever problems we have. We understand our community better. So I suggest, there's no point you after 10 years, you got very good ideas, but the best way to translate it in action is to see the commercial angle to it. And you promote, don't make it like a very, a path where every Malay graduate has to join MOE or to choose a safe path. I think we should consider that.
How do we sell? I'm just trying to get it. Do we sell a service or?
No, what I mean is that, yeah, I think I did.
Okay, I think we have. Do we have any? Mike. Yes. Got the voice, huh? Switch this on, right? Is it on? Okay, you speak a bit and I'll elaborate to the rest of it.
I lost my voice, I cannot speak. Not to say I shouldn't speak at all. I cannot, because very interesting to talk about funding and everything. Oh, sorry, I'm Amin Padre from AMP. Okay, it's very interesting to talk Okay, Assalamualaikum. Okay, I'm actually from AMP board and also LPKR. And it's very interesting to talk about all this funding and people going to university not having enough funding. Of course, the problem started 20 years ago when we gave up free education for universities. Now, we have the ETF and all this funding for local universities. And as Shan produced, there's a lack of role models, and there's a lot of people with mindset that cannot afford to go to university and so on. So why bother trying even for something that you can't afford to achieve it? And which actually is very interesting when someone said the sandwich class. That's a very, very interesting comment, because this is the class that actually is supposed to be the role models and the aspirers for the lower community. And the fact that we shut them out, we're actually creating a bigger problem. And it is a problem very true problem of funding with the sandwich class. Because with the middle class income family, the people tend to forget that as the income level goes up, so does your liabilities and your lifestyle. And the fact that I'm earning middle class income does not mean I can afford to send my children overseas for university or whatever. Why? Maybe yes, maybe because I have an expensive lifestyle. But that's the aspiration of everybody. Okay, so we should actually do something about collecting. There's a lot of money available out there for education, and the money is spotted all over. There is actually a very strong need for getting this money together. Minimum is the information. Just a list of everything that's available that we should somehow distribute it to every person that's going to university. I mean, you mentioned about the LBK scholarship. Everybody in this room knows about it, for example. Right? There's a lot of things out there. And we should I look at some of the scholarships, the income level and so on, they tend to be quite very, very low. That people earning above them, there's no way they can afford to send their children to overseas, honestly. You know, Singapore is getting so expensive, and as I said, the whole education problem is actually a weapon of so many things. Okay? Having said, I wrote doctor's orders, can I just also say a few of this? I want to say a couple of institutional things. Rashan presented two issues about, in one of his slides he talks about numeracy and what are the issues? Yeah, numeracy skills and the primary one, right? Yeah, that's one of the problems. Primary one, the English student can have numeracy skills and so on. And another problem about role models. And these two actually are institutional issues that has to be handled with MOE. Because I find it very weird, honestly, personal level, that compulsory education is from primary one. Means there's no compulsory education pre-primary one, and why do you expect a student that come with primary one having any skills at all? At primary one, teachers assume that the students at primary one have basic skills, which means anyone who does not go kindergarten, does not go preschool, actually has a disadvantage. That is actually a very unfair institutional policy. Second policy is the whole idea of streaming and the whole idea of having good school, bad school, so forth. Because there's as soon as I say I see the community. Okay, can I just say there are other institutional issues? The other about good school, bad school, and so on. Because the role models, about the family role models and so on, we have a very simple saying in our work. If you do not have a career, which means an elder, you go by yourself. Which means for role models, if you do not have an internal role model, you always get an external role model. What is an external role model in school education? It's your friends. But if I go and dump you in a lousy school where everybody is the same as you, you even lose your chance of getting an external role model. Which I find it quite shocking that a lot of good schools only taking express, for example, in section. I will take a normal stream. So how would the normal stream fellow actually look at people as role models and aspire to be better, especially if he goes back home and he finds all his cousins are also in the normal stream.
Just to add on, I mean, recently I sent my daughter to some DSA talk because she's in primary 6 this year. So we went to talk some of the schools where she's eligible, but the point is the teacher says, I mean the person that says she can't go in because they don't have Malay as a second language. What do you think of that? So that's something that needs to be addressed. Sorry, somebody? Oh, you want to talk about Polytechnic? Okay, let her talk.
My name is Azhar. I'm a lecturer at Polytechnic. I think you've got a very valid point about the number jumping from currently 5.1 to we got that Polytechnic graduate. Very true, and I think we can do something about it. And the point that Dr. Amin made also, but it is very costly, the private education that most Polytechnic students would have to go to because there's only a certain number of Polytechnic students who do go to the state universities. The cost of a private university education is between at least $25,000 and to as high as $64,000, right? I just discovered that the SUNY Buffalo program offered via SIM $64,000, you know, so it's quite amazing. So if we can also consider for these Polytechnic graduates to somehow get access to some funds and then fulfill the ambitions to become graduates, that'd be great.
I suggest AMV create a bag called Polytechnic bag as a first point of reference, just to focus on the Polytechnic graduates. We are all one team. So my son just finished Polytechnic. Only about 60 students, staff students, they go on to anywhere. Very little. You have to score about 3.9 credit to go in. Further.
The avenues available to the rest would be the private institutions, right? What do we have right now? Kaplan?
SIM is popular, SMA.
For a start, we can recommend that UNISIM, they want to go on to UNISIM after their Polytechnic. We create, because UNISIM is about 20,000, you can get one degree. We just want to have a degree.
Right.
Getting a degree is not a problem, so we don't say that we don't have graduates. It's very highly achievable. I see a lot of people, old people, taking their degrees at 40, 50, and so on.
Dr. Ram has something to say.
Yeah, Dr. Go ahead.
I think it's really been quite well discussed on the issues of finance. Yeah. I think we should move on to other topics, but just to round it off, I think in your presentation you also discussed about this idea of getting more graduates, and we have heard that finance is one issue. Yeah. I would like to propose that AMP set up an education foundation to look into giving loans for those who want to go to tertiary education. Right? So that will sort of encourage or move your recommendation for graduates from every family. Yeah. Of course, Mendaki and LBKM has it as well, but I think it's falls short of expectation. Yeah. So there is still a vacuum there that has to be filled. So this is one recommendation that I think EMP should take up. Well, I thought that would be one of the recommendations that you would do in this convention. So I think you fall short of doing that. Okay, so that's, I think, to end the discussion. Then moving on to your graduates in every family, I think you should not dilute your aspiration to say that, oh, it's okay if you have an IT graduate in the family. You know, if you want to set up an aspiration, yeah, you should push on to graduates in every family. Yeah, so the target should be university graduate in every family. Now, of course, to achieve that, you have to increase the number of ITE, the number of poly, and for them to aspire to move on to become graduates, university graduates.
Yeah. Just let me tell you.
Can I just finish, then you can move on to others and whatever you have to comment. The other is, I mean, you have some ideas about having motivational programs and things like that. And you also highlight that over the years, we are not short of having programs. We've got lots of programs. Naki has got tuition programs and PSLE programs, Mercu has it. But one of the issues that I think has not been looked into is at the outreach. Yeah. More often than not, many of these programs have been done by Mendaki as well. The outreach is very small. Yeah, I've seen some of the programs, we've experimented with some of the programs together, AMP, Mendaki. Good programs, but the outreach are very small. So in other words, you're benefiting a very small group. I'm afraid the program that you will do will suffer from the same thing. We have good programs, very poor outreach, and also that it's not going to the people that matters. Those that comes to the programs are already people who are already motivated. But people who are not motivated are not being reached out, and you're not changing them. Okay, so these are my points.
Just hang on. Let me answer about the graduates. And this is the truth, okay? We thrashed the issue of the label graduates for quite a while. Okay? And we were like you, we wanted to make it exclusive to university graduates. But then we had discussions with certain people at high level, government representatives, and we were in a way warned not to be so exclusive using the label. Okay, that's the kind of obstacles that we faced. So in the end, we had to enlarge that label to include ITE and polygrads as well. And we agree, but we have our own limitations.
So can we get an idea from this group what they think about this university graduates versus IT graduates? Whether our community should settle just for IT graduates, or should we just, the mantra should be university graduates in every family?
Show of hands. I mean, should we be generic in our use of the term graduates to include anybody who's completed an education program, be it ITE level, poly levels, or should we be exclusive to just university? Yeah.
I talk about aspiration. When you talk about aspiration,
yes,
you really aim high. Yeah, you can't dilute your aspiration.
True. So that's about that.
Because,
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself?
hi, my name is Ajax, I'm with the NSP. I disagree with the university graduate. Must it be university graduate? Cannot be, say, a blue collar or something, because we have fallen into a trap of means a university degree means a guaranteed success. That's not really true. Yeah, all other countries, Singapore included, we are lacking in blue collar workers. High qualification of blue collar technical. But when you do a university degree, you tend to borrow a huge sum of money to continue with it. In cases in America, students are in debt. Even after they graduate, they're in debt. So when you say you want to do a university degree, you want to break the poverty cycle. But nowadays, it isn't. You're still continuing a circle of poverty.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, I'm Haikal I just graduated from Poly, and I get into NUS after Poly. So it's my role model as a Poly graduate, and I got a scholarship from NUS. So it's like when you go for the interview, they ask you what's your role model, how do you envision the community as a whole community to move forward as a better and more empowered society as a community. So I mean, as you say, as in America, as wise, right? I mean, if you look at Harvard and MIT, they are providing funding for their own students. So if we say that only for blue collar workers, right, you should see as a university as a form of empowerment and motivation for solving for the rest of the issues of the main community of the Malays. So there's also in Polytechnic as wise, right? As what the man have said, right? The Polytechnic Malays, right, not very competitive enough to the other Chinese, as what I've seen, because my course in civil engineering is very widely of a Chinese-dominated course. So we should just compete with the rest, and just what Mr. Nizam said just now, right? Compete globally, not locally, but globally as a community.
So what's the point that you're trying to make here?
I'm just trying to say that I mean we can do it but it's just that more support, just like what you said just now, role model. I think the university graduates, university students, polytechnic students, IT should combine efforts and become one solid group and lead themselves to improve their social standing as well as their academic standing.
So if we were to
collaborate each other.
No, we were to create a campaign when we say, let's have this belief for every family. We should have graduates in every family. What would we mean that? Would we mean university graduates? Or shall we just be open about it and say, well, any kind of graduates?
My name is Mas, I'm a consultant. I think if we want to, I agree with Raza, if you want to do an aspiration, you should do a university graduate as an aspiration. You can have stepping stones for polytechnic or IT. If you do not do that, you can have a negative effect because you say, hey, AMP or whoever is going to do the program says polytechnic is good enough, why do you want to pursue the university graduates? I think a negative effect would be worrying for us.
That's true. I call it falling into the trap of mediocrity, isn't it?
Yes.
Graduates. I'm any kind of graduate. Yes, okay. Very enthusiastic young lady there.
Hi, can I say something?
We'll let us speak and then we go back to you.
Hi, I'm Faina, currently in NPU, yeah. I agree that it should include all IT, because, to encourage them further. But you see, if they should be included, I think they should be here. But it goes around with your social circle. I don't think there are any IT grads here, are there? Or anyone that should be here to be aware of all this, that help that they have. Because I think what he mentioned about the external role model thing really is a very prominent point that Malay community doesn't really address. If they keep mixing with the wrong company, they'll keep being in that run, and even family, to a point where they'll compare. Yeah, so your sister is in uni, but I can't make it like her because I'm just stupid. It is that kind of mindset because they mix around people who are of that level who your sister just privileged, that sort of thing.
Coping mechanism.
Yeah, coping mechanism. So I think what is lacking or what Mendaki or whatever MMO can do is to get these people to be more aware. Those who are, let's say, lower SES or those who from the normal tech, they should be the one you're focusing on. Because I think people like us, if our issues are mostly just about funding, I'm sure the other people can help somehow. But I think what the core of it is still social circle, family especially. And then secondly about how, like he said about the negative connotation, if you include LTE and then Malays are somehow easily contented, or it's a good thing that, be grateful and everything, but somehow it will, like they say, okay, never mind, only enough, That's why I think to push them towards university is slightly more important because, if all of the Chinese, they are aiming for that, why do you want to aim for just poly or, it's still, you should aim for postgraduate, I think, because at the end of the day, even if it's blue collar, but if we are paying you more for your education, then why do you stop there, right?
So you're talking about critical mass. If let's say I'm somebody from the Chinese community, I turn around, there's a grad there. I turn here, there's a grad there. That gets me motivated to be like him or him because they were just like me. But if I'm a Malay, where? That's an issue.
There's so many Malay graduates, what can happen then?
Then everybody else wants to be a Malay graduate, isn't it?
I think that's a problem now. We have 5%. Let's worry when we are 25%.
What is the purpose of having a university degree? Have you asked this question? Have you pondered? You have a university degree, what does it mean for the community? Do you help more?
Okay, I'll let...
I'm Hidayah. I'm the co-founder for the Singapore Muslim Student Overseas. Maybe some of you do not know this, but there's a group of us who started this actually last year to give support to Muslim students from Singapore who are studying everywhere in the world. And I just want to talk about my experience because me and Nadia, we face a lot of challenges while we are studying overseas, and we have heard so many stories that we cannot believe. So maybe I'll just share with you, and maybe it can just mold you to think of certain issues. Like number one, about finances. We met, at least I met this, one of our friends when we left for the UK, he got into Oxford Law.
Father passed away, mother retired. Asked Mendaki twice. He got into law. And Mendaki, the same thing when Mendaki told me also, tak ada duit and whatever. Okay, so this boy applied for 23 scholarships and still didn't get. So what happened? Somehow he managed to pull, somebody also helped, like people, and he's in second year and then finished next year. You compare this is 2010. And I also know somebody in the 1990s who got into Oxford, Malay boy, PPE, which is a very good course to get in. Father, truck driver. Mother, primary school teacher. Cannot afford it. So somehow he couldn't get the expenses. So what did he do? He did not go. He was rejected. He went to some unknown university in America, wow, mana-mana, and he worked and studied. And he was so angry, and he loved Singapore, and he just didn't come back. So now he's a big name in Malaysia. So you also have that brain drain. And which is a real issue, because if people are angry, you don't empower even a little bit of scholarship, like the LBKM started a prestigious university. That is good because you need to aim high. Why should you just drop your standards so low? So that's one. And mental role modeling. Okay, so Alhamdulillah, I got a chance to study in Cambridge, and I'm like the only Malay girl from Singapore there. And every time I go to Singapore, like the Cambridge University Malaysia Singapore Society, you will only see my Malay name there. And so the Chinese, there's a whole lot, right? So I always do this survey. I always ask, like randomly. So what makes you choose to come to Cambridge? Besides that, it's Cambridge. Oh, my father went there. Oh, I know friends who came. And then the very interesting is this girl, she's studying medicine, and she said, oh, because I found out that my cousin's girlfriend went to Cambridge, and I thought maybe I also can. Okay, so I asked her, so did you meet this cousin's girlfriend when you came to Cambridge? Oh no, they broke up. But it doesn't matter, but you compare this mental modeling, and I asked another person, my friend, and she said, I asked her, why do you become an air student? Oh, because that time, I saw my neighbor, they pakai the air stewardess uniform. Then I thought, quite good, quite a good job, glamorous. So you see, people actually make, these are very subtle visual imagery, but it can mold your life choices. So I agree totally with the role modeling thing. And another thing I want to highlight is also, I got to also study in the States. And in America, as you know, everything is possible. And that's why the beauty of America, because you have a dream, nobody will say you can't do it. Compared to here, you can put obstacles. So in America, I always take, I always walk past this bus stop. In the billboard, okay, besar, this picture of this girl. And they put there, homeless to Harvard. Okay, so I walk every day up and down, and I was just thinking, okay, what is this homeless to Harvard? So I actually check it out, and this is the story of this girl who was homeless, parents drugged, okay, HIV, whatever, she ate from the garbage bin and all that. So, and she had to go and she turned her life around, and she had to even borrow a jacket because baju dia koyak rabak tau nak pergi Harvard punya interview. But in the end, she got it. And they, they place all this besar-besar, they even make a movie to inspire people. And they put this on bus stops. So what do we have? Our bus stop is like, oh, please bring New Moon punya whatever party ada di sana, and then you will get all 4 A's. So it's ridiculous. And you compare, because this is the experiences that I see. This is really visual role modeling. But what do we have on TV? We have trash. Okay, and most of, like I said, the IPE, the budak-budak yang lain, don't talk about, okay, those who are motivated, like maybe Alhamdulillah ourselves. But what do they see on TV? They see all this trash. If you give them trash, we get trash. And this is very real. So the role modeling, no wonder the people in Cambridge, the Chinese, when I asked, because they were inspired, okay, the name is there, because they know people who went. And it's like, okay, that's every single one of them. So what, you see, how about our Malays? When you have one who got into good universities, you don't even help, Nizam Zakaria, you can Google him. He works with KRU Studios now. He's a big shot director. He got PPE 1990s. Nobody helped him. Okay, tak dapat. Aizat, thankfully Aizat got in, he managed to go to Oxford. So can you imagine? And you know how much our fees are. And it's a struggle because I myself also ask for funding, also I get the same thing. Then it's when me and Nadia, we said, come on, this cannot be. And we set up SMSO because we want to pull everybody together so that we can be like the visual role modeling. Say, oh my God, Nadia is doing that thing. And she topped her class, 1 year, second in class. But I was also inspired, So you see, I think also you like this outreach, right? Maybe the tactic you have to change and engage the media more rather than, because you see everyone look at the media. So you nak cakap sampai mulut berbuih also, there's no point. If the media is there to just give them this constant reminders that they are no good, they can only go to ITE, to please put the bar really high. Like for instance, Straits Times, I flip every week. There's this article, one whole page about some mud gang, Chinese mud, Abing, who turned his life around, become a businessman. Every week you have stories like this, one full page. So why don't you do your outreach like that? And I know, like at least for Cambridge University, the Islamic Society, what they do is like we all will invite those people. We even pay for their train. You know how big England is, right? We pay for their train for these students, Muslim students from all the terceruk kampung-kampung mana, to come to Cambridge to spend. And they were like, the girls was, pair up with the sisters and the brothers who stay at the college. They come on Thursday. We take them around Cambridge. We tell them, okay, these are your options. We share with them, like you said, this sharing of experience. And at the end, we said, please apply to Cambridge. That means you went out and take these people. You pay for their transport to come. You shelter. So-called you house them. And there's a buddy. So when they see, oh my God, there's this sister who's already has made it, and she thinks I can make it too. So this is very real, and I think in your in implementation, like I said, finances, because if you don't do this, you have brain drain in the future, okay? And then your outreach, you have to think about how you want to reach to all these other people, and like I said, role modeling and also the visual imagery, like through mass media. All right, thank you.
Sorry.
The issue is always about money. So does the community have the resources to support this?
Yes. Madani has like only 6 million, right? The last time when I tried 20
Anybody in a position to answer that question? Do we have resources?
I just want to comment. I think Madaki has to realize if he has 4 shots somewhere, just say it 4 shots. You don't have to be defensive. They don't have to come out and say, we should come to it. They are not a one-stop center. We have to realize that, other organizations in the community itself will have to step up and will step up.
But the thing is, but they're holding the funds. I don't. Would you know anything about that?
My name is Dijan. I'm from AMP. I'd just like to share a couple of things. Back to our discussion about strategies. I think there's a great need for us to focus on the main strategies. To me, I think they made a study in Singapore. The predictor of the academic achievement of any individual actually goes far as back as PSLE score. So if we can help our kids to have a quality pass and push the percentage of to the top 20%. Currently, the top 20% cohort is only about 200, 220 for the Malay Muslim number. It has been steady over the past decades. And if we can increase the percentage of passes for PSLE, that would be a tremendous boost to our post-secondary. But that doesn't mean after they go to good secondary school, we can just wash our hands. More things need to be done to ensure, because currently, the number of Malay students, the small underrepresentation of the Malay students in the good premier schools, they're also not doing well. They are the bottom 10-20 of the cohort. That's one issue. With regard to the financial resources, alhamdulillah, I and my husband, we prepared our children's education from the very day they were born. I have 6 kids. And my kids, alhamdulillah, they qualified for local universities, but they didn't get to the faculty of their choice. Meaning they can do arts and social science, they can do sciences, they can do simple pharmacy, but they can't do medicine and history. So for me to send them to dentistry, medicine, I had to pay in Australia currently 57,000 Australian dollar per year. So it's a six-year course. So I need to pay about 400 to 500,000 per child. 400k to 500k per child.
HDB flat.
Yeah. Which I did. Alhamdulillah. My first one is a gynae now, undergoing gynae training. More importantly, my second one is doing law, alhamdulillah. My third one is doing dentistry, but I can't afford to send her dentistry. So she is actually very sour about it. So we do have financial resources, but no matter what you say, 500,000 per child is really, really very costly. I'm speaking from my personal experience. I have another child who is doing pharmacology in Manchester University. So what I'm sharing this with you is, the next issue is, will they be able to come back to Singapore? My worry is, after I send them, invested so much, will they be coming back to Singapore? Will they be able to get a job which is relevant, suitable, appropriate for their performance? There are a lot of issues that we can talk about, but let's be practical here. I do agree about not being labeling our kids, whether ITU or poly or whatever it is. In Singapore context, we actually look into people qualification. So let's move step by step. We recognize those who get ITE, we recognize those who get poly diploma, but I think we have to raise our bar. We have to raise our bar. Yes, thank you.
Can I
Okay, how do you?
Okay, sorry, just adding on, because we've been talking about agency level. I teach secondary school in RGS. If you're going by, and in fact this is something that we told ourselves about 23 months ago in the league. In terms of minority representation, we are 13.9%.
7 or 9.
Yeah, if you go by that, for every year we have 400 applications, we should be having about 50 Malay students per year. But we don't. We consistently have only 15. Maximum I've seen is 20. Really, in fact I don't even think I've seen 20. And these students, I need to talk about modeling in terms of, and you see the Chinese students, as mentioned by Daya, what they're doing is, we see other people doing it, and to them it's normal. This is what I should be doing. I should be going to university. I should be aiming for this. And to my girls, to my Asian girls, this is their norm, It's not even something that, okay, I'm going to aspire to. This is like, I am going to university. Now what am I going to do? How am I going to get there? And this is another aspect that I think we should. And I have had so many anecdotal stories about people saying, I don't want my daughter to go to RGS. I don't want them to go so far away. Dekat-dekat dah boleh. My own family members did that. Because you can 2-5 something strong, send it somewhere nearby. Don't want the child to go too far away. Why do you do that? Why? And I think one more step that we need to look at also is possible career, university, education. Because I do that a lot with my girls. My girls 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds asking me about university, what courses is she doing, what college where, which country is good for what. And I spend a lot of time talking to them about this. And I think if we had that kind of resource for our community, where you can sit down and say, if this is the course you want, what's the kind of subjects you need to be doing well in, what's the kind of things that you need to be looking at. This is very practical. We don't have that. Even in elementary schools, we don't really have that. The top schools like RI has it. I know they have a very extensive career admissions department. Most of my friends work there, I know that. So I think if we can provide that for our kids, interview skills, what do you look out for? Look at your resume. What are you building up? If you're going to apply for a scholarship in GC2, what do you need? We don't have that. And I think that's what we need. It's necessary because I teach in secondary school. This is very practical. I see it all the time. It's something that if we can build up, I think we start them from young, we can definitely develop them. It's possible.
So we don't talk about what you cannot, but what you can and what you must.
There's no such,
right?
You go to
Okay, we'll just have time for 3 more. Dr. Faisal, Idros, and okay, you after that. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm here to defend I happen to be in the short track because of the last term. I think it's a very eye-opening experience. I've seen Singaporeans, not really to the Malay community alone, Chinese, Indian community as well, all aspire to do this. And I heard you and I met Singaporeans in Malay saying that, oh, they cannot get loans from the country. And I've heard similar stories from other communities. So it's not only unique to the Malay community. Resources is limited, and we receive many applications. That's why when you call them, you get turned down, you feel offended, you feel that I should be the one who's getting it and not them. Because there are many applications. And I think Mendaki has to ensure that the resources is distributed accordingly. And I think there's so much we can do. But what we can do is this. We can all contribute to this effort of how to enrich our community and bring this amount of surplus to a higher level so that we can help more. So our businessmen should do more, do well, contribute to the community, contribute to Mendaki, contribute to the fund that we have so that we can help more.
But you already have 46 million and you're not even happy.
I think so I think it's a very eye-opening experience. You look at the amount of how, since we changed the TPFS requirements recently, you see how that will put us in more constraint in this. With the TPFS, more and more Singaporeans, Malays, are getting help for tertiary education. And then with regards to the all wanting to go to university, this is also happening in other communities as well. I come across a few groups of people. One, I get into university, I don't care, you must fund me. I want to go there. I hope that you will fund me, and I want to really aspire to achieve my aspiration. Second group, and this is not only limited to the Malay community. I've got people who, because of the competition that we have in Singapore, those students from poly, from graduation, of course, the next thing they want to do is to go to university, right? But whether that is the right move, why can't they start working? This refers to the second group of people I've met, whereby, yes, I know, I cannot afford, I will work, and I will save money so that I can continue my education with my own money. And I may get some help to top up what I have. And there are people who also think about how, if I work, how can I also get scholarship for my country? So, and I'm happy to say that this is the bigger group that I've come across. My worry is this, at this point in time, the polytechnic students are all having peer pressure. Once they complete, everybody wants to go to the university immediately. Is it good for them? I met a parent recently saying, how if Dr. Faisal, can you convince my child to work rather than follow her friends? All want to go to university. What he worries is that she will go to a university which is not very good and her degree will not do any much good to her. So in terms of the marginal increase, it may not be that good. So at the end of the day, we want to ensure our community members, they do the right thing. We want them to achieve the best for what they are, at what level they are. So at the end of the day, I think we have the responsibility to work together. It's not about, okay, all of us must get university degree, all go for it, and then you get very, I wouldn't say cheap university degrees, I said those which are not so good, then they will feel disillusioned. What we don't want is a disillusioned community. We want community whereby they are proud where they are, they can contribute to the society, whether Malay, Chinese, Indian, they are proud to be Singaporean. So I think at the end of the day, I heard you just now, and I thought that it's good that you speak up. And my 2 years in Mendaki was a very eye-opening experience, because I got to get to see the accounts, I got to see how the staff tried their best to help. And you can imagine the number of calls that they receive of Singaporeans wanting to improve themselves, wanting to upgrade themselves. And the kind of help I saw them, the kind of help that they went out all the way to call other organizations like Lee Foundation, all this, to see how they can help these individuals. Sometimes the cost is too high, in such a way that you got to see where you want to put the resources. So to me, the way to go is to galvanize our community together, work with the current platforms that we have. Well, we may have new platforms, how the new platforms can complement the current platform, so that we can move on as a united community.
Yes, Sabaria. And then after that, there was Dr. Jashim, is it behind? Sabaria. No, let's Sabaria, then you go.
Hi, my name is Sabaria. I'm an educator, I'm a teacher. Perhaps I would just want to shift the discussion a little to the establishment of an education research center. Because I think earlier we have been talking about the statistics and everything else, and our PSLE scores are such, and I think we're all aware of that, and it has been something that we have been used to for the last 20 years or so. I just want to bring up a point, because that is the leverage point that we can all be looking at as a community, and I think we should harness our energy there. Just for one basic reason, because their PSLE performance is something that will trail them. So I call it a trailing gap, because it will trail them the minute they do not do well in the PSLE. It will trail in terms of the choices of secondary school education. It will, at secondary school, that it will determine where they go, post-secondary options, etc. So I think the fulcrum, we really need to shift it. We need to talk about where do we want to leverage our resources. We do have limited resources. And where do we park them for the next 5 to 10 years? And I think there's a need for us to really look at how can we bring across like a very educated and informed decision that we need to make in terms of pedagogies and in terms of the kind of strategies that we need to help our students do better in school, so that by the time they get to school, or even while they are in school, we continue to follow them. I think learning support programs and everything, that's at the mainstream. They have their value. That's what teachers do in the mainstream. Then where do the community complement what's being done in school as well? I think we really need to look at that. For instance, I think in the States, they talk about a lot of pedagogies that are brain-based learning, and how do you deal with students in poverty so that they can learn better, because by the time they go to primary 1, their brains are not at full capacity, not because they can't study or they cannot do well in school, but because they do not have perhaps even middle-class habits of sitting quiet for 1 hour and listening to the teacher talk. I think it's simple things like that, because their home environment is very different. So how do we ensure that by the time they get to school, they are ready, and when they are in school, they do not continue to trail? And I think that's a very basic question that we have to answer. So I think one of the things about the education research, I think we should harness our energy and invest our time and effort in there, or whatever limited resources that we may have, so that we bring in the pedagogies and we take the lead. I mean, we are sort of underrepresented, overrepresented. So in students who underperform, we could take the lead, because the pedagogies would cater to all students of all ethnic groups, not just the, as long as they are lower income households, they can do all these things. We should perhaps take the lead. Just a thought.
Thank you, Sabaria. Gentleman behind.
I don't have facts and figures to justify my personal experiences. But first of all, I think our community is lacking in reading habits. We don't read enough. I think we should encourage our community to read more. Whatever they read, doesn't matter. Number 2, our community is too much focused on entertainment, TV, television, newspapers. They don't get good experience of reading newspapers and all. My personal experience is this. I look at my friends, how they succeed in life. First of all, their children, the TV is out of bounds to the children. Whether the Indian, the Chinese, this is what they do. All right? Number 2, they don't encourage their children to read newspapers, read books, everywhere they go. And so much so that they get inspired. The children get inspired. For example, my 2 boys, we don't talk about money. They wanted to go to university. I said, never mind, I don't have the money. Right? Somehow or other, you must aim. You aim high. Or there are ways and means of getting it. And alhamdulillah, they made it, both of them. Right? My grandson, right? He is inshallah, he reads a lot. Right? He is aiming to go to Cambridge next year to read medicine. He's prepared himself. Why? Because he reads. You talk to him, he's only 16 years old. Right? But he's very mature. Right? Because of all, every day you go to his house, you find books all over the place. Well, we can say, well, we can't afford to buy books. But we, don't throw our books to people who are successful today. Right? I'm sure they all have got good reading habits. They read and read and read and read. You take the English, wherever they go, they read. The Japanese, wherever they go, they read. But do our children do that? They don't get inspired. Inspiration is something that actually can get you to overcome all the problems. I'm with MBKM. I see many families who go to university not because they don't have money. Some of them are road sweepers, but they go to university, they aim high. And then we've given 20,000 for bursaries to students. I said, no, we got to change the product. Now we encourage people to aspire to go to the top 10 universities of the world. And we are getting the numbers slowly and slowly. These people don't have the money. Nandia don't have the money. Ida don't have the money. But they get inspired. And I say, never mind. Don't worry about your money. You just go there. You just reach there somehow or other you get money. But where does this all begin? From reading. Do we have research done on the reading habits of our Muslims? So if you don't start from there, you never get anywhere. So these are based on personal experience. And
that's probably going to be aligned to the parent school that the social
whatever it
is
is,
doing.
encourage people to read.
We are right. That's the way to inspire, to expose. And sorry, I promise Idrus. And then we have to wrap up. Idrus, what do you have to say?
Yeah, so sorry. Just following on the falling rates of literacy in terms of English, maths, and I'm educated myself. And I'm not moving off to the issue about funding here. Alright, as much as it badly burnt me in a way. I greatly contributed to Mendaki. Over 13 years I served as a tutor. Alright, teaching young kids, holding their minds, inspiring them. Alright. But at the same time I would like to say that pointing out page 87 of the journal, falling rates of literacy in terms of English and mathematics. I think a concern has been about mathematics in the sense that we've been declining. But I didn't see much statistics on the falling rates of English literacy. So, in mathematics we deal with problem sums, a great deal of problem sums and all that. So, my question is that, do our Malay kids, do they understand what the problem sum is actually asking for? You see? And maybe we would like to look into that area, where English is actually a problem that actually correlates with mathematics.
Okay.
And on top of that, Mr. back there has actually pointed out that literacy reading is essential. Our preschool education hasn't been too fantastic, has it? Based on a recent survey that was done about revealed 2 days ago. So I think we should look at not just primary, secondary, or even university as a form of education. Has there been an essential, I would say, a middle class tier catering to the middle class people, early childhood education for them? Their kids, putting their young children to school, catering them to primary 1 level, so that they will be prepared for the future. So that's my concern. If we are looking at a 10-year development process, I think we shouldn't exclude this class of generation.
The quality of preschool education.
Right, the quality of education. I mean, it's easy to generalize and put stats and figures up on a board on a screen and say that, okay, we are here, we've got the centers to help, we've got programs run. But the thing that we need to ask ourselves is, do we have the quality that actually represents those stats and figures? Do we have the quality of teachers that actually know what they're teaching in class? The curriculum, the syllabus runs out in Mendaki and their books. Are the books actually catered to the students' level? Are they catered to what is actually being taught in schools? So we need to re-examine ourselves in terms of relevance as well before we meet up to the aspirations. Thank you.
Okay, final 10 minutes, okay? Okay, let them do it first. You want to just I wanted to do? No? Okay, no. Okay, what do you want to say?
Do I have time?
You have the time.
Okay. My name is Ridwan. I'm Indonesian from Indonesian Muslim Association in Singapore. Now I am an NTU staff as teaching assistant. So I happen to have a chance to teach poly students who enter NTU as first year students. And I saw the reality that the poly students who enter the university itself, most of them are struggling because of the gap between the JC
and poly students graduate. So even the high percentage of poly students going to, I mean, if they go to university, it's still not solving the problem. So I agree with Mr. Idris and the lady, that we must go back to the early levels, because that's where the roots of the problems are. Yeah. So I hope that we don't play blaming game here, and instead we go practical into something that we can establish. Yes. Thank you.
Last one. Let's wrap up with a lot of very interesting things, and there's a lot of questioning about that they really want to shock me. And there's a lot of linkages that we seem to be not very sure about. I mean, there's a few things I hear about what affects what and what are the casual effects of different things, which actually leads whether we feel we do need a research center to actually address these issues. Because a lot of things we raise from the floor, questioning, are we going the right direction? What should we be doing? Is preschool more important? What is there linkages between English and math? These are questions actually we need to address. That's why I personally feel we need to do more research in education. It's not purely about looking at statistics and coming up with conclusions from descriptive statistics. We need more understanding of the situation. And secondly, we need to aspire, because we need to motivate our learners. We need to aspire them, and our aspiration coming in from having a graduate and a family. Then there's a question of what do we mean by graduate. I personally don't think we should go IT. I think my personal feeling, the only discussion that should be done is between whether poly and or university. That discussion, my personal belief, it should be university or a professional qualification, because a professional qualification is equivalent to a postgraduate qualification. So somebody talked about blue collar. Yes, if you have a professional qualification as a blue collar, yes, you are probably better than graduate or a professional. And the issue about motivating learners, I mean, there's a few things about motivating learners, role models, so on and so on. All those are a lot of based on anecdotal evidence, which actually goes back to we need to do some basic research to actually understand the role modeling role in motivating people. I think someone said something very interesting at RGS, that RGS girls are all aspired. Everybody talks about university is a normal thing. But if we go to another neighborhood school, it doesn't have an express thing. People's dream is a poly, anything. They think the natural thing to do is IT or drop out of school. Therefore, maybe what MMO should do is get the students together. Maybe what we should organize is some form of interaction between all the different students, so that what I mentioned earlier about external role models, that we should get role modeling from our peers. Okay. And the talk about funding. A lot of things are raised about whether there's enough funding for the community and so forth. Maybe there is not enough, maybe there is enough. However, the sentiments about funding that's being arisen by a lot of people is because they see a lot of funds not being dispersed. If all the funds are dispersed, I think very few people will complain about funding. But the fact that people are not getting funds, and then they look at whatever education fund accounts and finding that a lot of money is being carried forward, that raises anger among aspiring students. So that my advice to Mentat is actually make sure you disperse the funds, or come up with a very good reason why these funds meant for scholarships, meant for education are not dispersed. And do not come up with, we want to use these funds for other programs. Because the fact that you come and say, I want to use these funds for programs, or sort of programs, when these funds are meant purely for education purposes. And that's what the community, as a community, we should actually go back to this very strongly. We should clarify what is meant for what, and what should be used for what. Don't bundle things together. So we become very clear. When someone says, I want a scholarship, I don't have money, yes, there's no money. And then we come back and say, how come there's no money when there's a lot of money?
being carried forward to next year? I'd like to make the wrap up.
You've done it already. You stole my thunder. Anyway, yes, all those points are good. You still wanna? Okay, 1 minute. What do you have?
Okay. I'm Isnor. I'm the current founder and president of Singapore Malay Film Society. I speak on behalf of, I think, more of the creative and media side. I see so far for the past, I don't know, 1 hour plus that everyone is always talking about the academic studies, but I speak on behalf, I personally feel that we should invest more on the creative education. So since we are here, education, I don't see any creative topic area down there, because I feel that if we are looking up at those lower educated families, I mean, they like entertainment, they like to have fun, they want to, I mean, academic to them, math, science, they just don't, it's not in depth. So I feel that we should channel most of our maybe resources, funding to media training, skills. If you speak on like ITE, knowledge like that, I think it's more to life skills, and I think they can survive. So if you question like successful, how do you measure successful? I mean, do you actually really need a degree? Because in the creative industry, it's ideas itself. Okay, people like Aaron Aziz, directors, Faizal Ishaq, I mean, they are in the creative industries and they are successful in that sense. So I think we should actually channel some of our resources to that area. So I feel not just always academic, because I think for the past 10 to 20 years we have always think, we need to do math and science, all this academic stuff. So why not we channel more to the creativity? Because I feel that, because I've been teaching normal technical students, academic, because they have ideas that can sell, and I support them. So I think we should channel our energy to that area.
Well, we have those media studies in the poly, so I guess it's, if they want to go forward, they go by the same channel. But yeah, you have a point. Thank you very much. Very good points. Some of them very original. Your point about the funding is something that is useful. We might want to pursue that. Apart from that, thank you very much. The wrap-up has been done. Now, please go for lunch. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so we have some housekeeping method. First, we'll need to do a poll of sort as to whether the group thinks that this would be the 3 recommendations. We've tabled 3 recommendations. Whether the group feels that this would be the 3 recommendations that the education panel should continue to work on, taking into account the various inputs that we have gathered today. So we need to have a poll of sort. So, and then after that, we'll do a second poll for you to identify which of these 3 recommendations should be ranked. You will need to rank them 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, and then after that, I have some announcements about lunch and zero prayer. Yeah, so if we could just do first a poll on whether or not the group feels that these 3 recommendations should stay, and that AMP, the education panel, should continue to work on this. Can we just have a show of hands those who agree that we should pursue the recommendations? Okay, perhaps maybe it's easier for those who don't agree. Is there anybody? It's okay, you won't mark your name. It will be useful because when Mr. Sham presents later at the plenary, at least we'll tell the bigger audience. So basically we agree that all of this. Okay, then perhaps now we'll do the ranking. Now by show of hands, I'll just take this, the first recommendation, graduates in every family. How many of you feel that this should be is ranked as the main recommendation the AMP should pursue?
Sorry, can we tweak that a bit? graduates in every family.
Sure. Okay. How is there a suggestion?
You say university graduates in every family.
Yes, I hear that. Those would be something. The point I noted the point about in terms of aspirations, the graduate should be a university graduate. Sham would mention that in the plenary, but for the purpose of ranking, yeah. So we'll just take it as that. The fine tuning would be done in his presentation. Okay, so again, that graduates in every family.
It's useful to know about how many, these university graduates, or we say the original graduates in every family. It might be good to get that feel as well.
Okay, so quick feel. How many of you think that the graduates should be firmly coined as a university graduate in every family? Nosia, you will help me with the. I can hear about 35. Okay, 36. 36. Okay, so 36 said that it should be a university graduate. I think we have about 50 or so here. Okay. Okay, so that is captured. Okay, now rank number 1. The recommendation, graduates in every family. This should be the main recommendation that AMP should pursue. Okay, so rank 1, this is rank first, yeah? Okay. Okay, now rank first, developing motivated learners. This should be AMP core business. Okay, the establishment of the Education Research Center. Okay, so based on the straw poll, 36 out of the 54 participants here today feel that the graduates, the term should be coined firmly as university graduates in every family. That's one.
I mean, we can still put graduates in every family, but it's
yes, for plenary, for Sham to mention it. In terms of the 3 recommendations that has been presented, the group feels that AAP should strongly pursue the recommendation developing motivated learners as a key recommendation for AMP to pursue, followed by the establishment of an education research center and the motion of graduates in every family. Okay. Sorry, let me take Sabaris.
Let's clarify something. I'm just wondering, ranking may be useful in terms of prioritization of resources, etc. I'm just wondering whether graduates in every family somewhat aspirational, like a vision statement that could happen concurrently, like an end target, like we say 20 years down the road, so you measure your KPI. And then establishment of a research center is to inform the kind of practices that you need, say when you want to pilot something, when you want to develop your motivated learners, you want to develop a program around that, you're going to need all the research to back up like the pedagogies that you're trialing and piloting, and then you measure the KPIs after 3 years, after 6 years, and perhaps
So
even report at the next convention that say we have been following say 200 students and this is what we report and this is their PSLE results and so on and so forth. And I think it should sort of all, it kind of all come together. It has different facets to it.
Can I follow up on what Maria said? One is very right. Maybe a rephrase. Maybe a rephrase of what the focus should be on. The focus is, we agree, developing motivated learners, and for developing motivated learners with the vision of achieving graduates in every family. And that will be based on a research base, which is based on we are focused on research base. Can you put it nicely?
Sure. Yeah. So we've settled that part lah. Yeah. No, we will not rank, but when we present, we'll say that there is agreement. Yeah, agreement.
Yeah, it's a package.
Because there may be some disagreement in some other panels which we'll hear later. Okay.
Just to see the other people mentioned, like Razak mentioned, or is there anything that anyone wants to?
Okay. Earlier on, Dr. Razak mentioned about AMP proposing that AMP set up a education fund of sort, yeah, to provide loans. Then there's also
for polytechnic.
Oh, okay. Are there any other pressing recommendations that you must say today? If not, you cannot leave the room. Okay, can I just sit down?
I just think that for private university, local private university, I think those who want to enroll in this private university should also get PPNS. Nowadays they don't get. So it's only government universities. I think they should get, but maybe cap or at the same students in the state.
So TTFS for overseas unis?
No, local universities.
Local overseas unis. Okay.
But not all are not yang cicah-bocah.
For selected local university unis. Okay.
There's also many cicah-bocah.
Yeah, I think that would be something.
Because that doesn't exist.
Sure, thanks. Okay.
If these two can be connected, the polytechnic take graduates and also tuition for
Okay.
going to university. That should be under
Yeah,
one.
I'll capture it.
And one more idea I want to say before I leave the room, feel satisfied, is the job opportunities for graduates in the future. I mean, you have 30% what graduates. Where are you going to put them?
Okay, that is being discussed in the econs panel. The econs panel is talking about that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
For the developing motivated learners, I propose the idea of building a boarding school for those parents who are both working and unable to provide guidance to the students, and the environment that's not conducive for learning. Hence, a boarding school is, is a good idea. It has been done in the UK, so it can be followed. And for the gentleman's answer about where to go to work after graduating, I propose Indonesia. Indonesia is a rising market now.
Okay. Okay. Can we just take one and then Martin and then?
My name is Hatta. I just want to express my idea that perhaps AMP should look into setting up their own AMP brand school, starting in primary school. I think we're past the stage of research and all that. For the last 30 years, I know you all, AMP, Mendaki, and every other organization outside of the community, haven't they been doing all this research? Why can't we have our own chain of schools, starting in primary school? The non-Malay community has their chain of missionary schools, the CHIK. What we should be looking at is our own brand of schools. The curriculum may be different, but we don't want to be outside of the mainstream. We can be part of the mainstream, but look into the subject matter, the criteria and all that. If the Arab owner of Chelsea Football Club can just spend a bit of his funds and set up the school in Singapore, I'm sure we can move on, rather than doing the same stuff for the last 30 years.
My name is Hassanul. I'm a AMP board member. I'd just like to say something about resources in the community. A lot of things that has been suggested has been asked by this group that AMP picked up. Let's be realistic. AMP 10 years ago after the convention, our funds were cut. Okay, matching grants only 1 million. We work on a very tight budget. There's a lot. The community problem is complex. This is only one panel. A lot of others say, AMP, why don't you take this up and take that up? We just did the budget a couple of weeks ago, and we actually may have some problems. So what I'm trying to say is, the community cannot expect one organization to do it. It has to be a community effort. Or in some instance, when there's a big problem, it has to be a state intervention. We're trying to solve this problem for past 20, 30 years. It's obvious our community cannot help it. Obvious. So I think we have to be listening about this point.
I think we shall end. I'm so sorry to have to cut, but I really keep track of time. Thank you, Asanu, for wrapping up. Is that okay? Okay. There's a school. Okay, I close this. You make it for school. Okay, just quick. I'm so sorry. I know it is very interesting, but I need to keep time. Okay. Lunch will be served immediately after the discussion. So, and it is served at the main hall at level 1. There will be ushers and signages to guide you. Male participants, you may use the black box theatre beside the main hall to do your Zuhur prayers. Ladies, you may proceed to level 4. But at this point in time, because the security screening has been completed, the metal detectors are up. So you may have some issues going in at the moment. So I would suggest that you go for your lunch first. However, due to the constraint during lunchtime, we encourage you to do your Zuhur prayers after the dialogue session with PF later at about 3:30. We will have 45 minutes of break after the dialogue to facilitate, and we have time. There should be enough time to do Zuhur before Asar. Okay? Please make your way to the auditorium after your lunch and be seated by 1:30 because the lift will not be in operation between 1:30 and 1:50. Yeah, so that's 5 steps up. So please encourage, make your way to the auditorium before then. And participants are required to only enter the auditorium via level 5 because of the security screening. Yeah, so please after lunch, please go up to level 5. Okay? So, okay, and as you go out, I have 2 of my officers who will be giving out the SMSO flyer.
Maybe we just explain very briefly. Quick announcement. Sorry, so basically what we're handing out today on behalf of the SMSO is a flyer about an event that we're having on the 8th of September. We call it the Muslim Students Initiative, and we're basically getting alumni and current undergraduates from various scholarships, various university study, various things to speak with the younger kids. We're inviting students from primary schools all the way up to JC, Poly, Madrasas, to come and find out about their options before they leave. So we're going to have mock interviews, we'll see through the applications and all that. So if you could please pick up the flyer and help spread the word, and inshallah we'll be able to thank you.
Okay, on behalf of the Education Panel Head, staff and AMP, I thank you for your presence at the Education Panel Breakout session. We hope we'll be able to capture the discussion for the plenary. So I'll see you later for the dialogue. Thank you very much.